Good morning, my name is Greg Penner. I am one of the worship associates here. I've been baking sourdough bread for 15 years. Here is a short reverse chronology highlighting some of the things that bring me joy about that process. This afternoon, as I do every day, I will cut a slice of my bread. As I step to the toaster, I will lift it up and I will smell it. And even though I do the same thing every day, yesterday and the day before, I will marvel at the sharp, sour aroma and the fact that this is a thing that I made. Toasted with butter and peanut butter, it's so delicious that I know I'll do the same thing again tomorrow. When I baked that loaf, the smell of freshly baked bread filled our house. The homey, cozy scent settled deeply into my soul, a fleeting and deeply satisfying feeling. 15 years in, I'm still learning how to make bread. With each loaf, I try to recapture what worked well last time and improve what didn't. I bake in a Dutch oven. Halfway through, I take the lid off. At this point, the yeast has feasted on the sugars in the bread and expelled the CO2 that causes the bread to rise. This is when I see the kind of loaf that I made. Is it the size and shape that I was aiming for, or is there yet another tweak I need to try next time to try and get it there? 2 days before I baked, I made the dough. It's an all-day process. The starter has been sitting in the pantry closet on top of the water heater, which keeps it at a perfect 72 degrees. Flour and water and salt were combined with the starter and mixed by hand. The old starter has been thrown out, and fresh starter has taken its place in the fridge, waiting for next time. Every hour or so, I stretch and fold the dough, an ancient technique that is at the heart of the no-knead approach. No knead like kneading. All in all, it's probably an hour's worth of work over the course of 8 or so hours. When I don't plan right, and I'm not home for the hourly stretch and folds, I will sometimes take it with me. My bowl of dough wrapped in a towel to keep it warm, traveling with me to my mom's house so I can keep it on its schedule. 2 days before that, I pulled the starter from the fridge and refreshed it. It had been sitting for about 2 weeks since my last bake, and the yeast and the enzymes are ready to eat. Equal amounts of flour and water, wake it up, and begin the baking process. I've done this for the last 15 years, occasionally at first, then consistently, now religiously. My starter is not quite 15 years old. My first one came to a tragic end after a couple of years, so I had to begin again. This means that twice I have created sourdough starter from scratch. This is a magical process. A bowl of flour and water sit uncovered in a warm spot. The yeast that lives on the flour and is in the air all around us settles in, finds it to be yummy, and a starter is born. Seemingly out of nowhere, literally out of thin air, the sum of those two parts becomes far greater. Of course, you can get starter from another baker. Excuse me. There is always surplus starter to share. Or you can order it from San Francisco for some extra tang, or from yeast that traveled the Oregon Trail. But no matter where you get your starter, from the beginning, it will be changing. With each refresh, you are exposing the starter to the yeast on the flour you are using that day, and to the yeast in the air where you are right then. It has even been found that the bacteria on the baker's hands are the same as in the starter. Each refresh, each overnight fermentation changes the starter. Soon enough, your starter will truly become your starter, unique to you, your process, and your environment. And the loaves you bake, each different in their own way, will truly be your bread.
So I hope you had a good holiday, whether you celebrated with turkey or pie or whatever else you decided to eat on that particular day. I had a great weekend because my daughter Marcella came home from Rhode Island for a few days, and she brought her girlfriend Aria with her. And they arrived Wednesday night just after midnight, and we left about 10 a.m. for my dad's house in Tillamook, so I did not get a lot of time with them alone, though we did go to the beach together twice. And I went a third time with Mika, so those of you who know me know that that made a really good weekend. Going to the beach 3 times in 3 days, I liked that. And so in the hour or so that we had at my house, I made my family's Christmas and Easter tradition, which was cinnamon rolls. Now, I don't make the traditional yeasted cinnamon rolls, but rather I make a quick cream biscuit dough with flour and baking powder and sugar and salt and heavy whipping cream. Have been involved in sourcing the food I eat is a powerful exercise. Some of you really enjoy gardening as a spiritual practice of understanding and participating in the growing of food. I am not a gardener. My line is, if it doesn't meow, I forget to water it. But I do love to cook. Occasionally, taking a few moments to realize where the ingredients in my food comes from does the same thing that looking up at the night sky and all of the stars does for me. I am reminded that I am merely an infinitesimal part of this system, of this universe. In just a moment, I'm going to invite you all to come up and take a small piece of bread. As we do this, I'm going to invite us to think about where it came from. In this case, market of choice on my way home from Kate's brother's memorial service yesterday. Before that, Grand Central Bakery, the bee-free, gluten-free bakery. It is certified gluten-free, and I kept it pretty careful for you. And the market of choice bakery is the sourdough. Before that, whose hands guided it through the process from seed to flour, to bakery, adding salt and yeast or sourdough. I invite you to take a moment as you line up to think about how very interdependent we all are. We rely on each other every day for the very food we eat, and others rely on us. May it ever be so.